Another pattern in human communication is our tendency to project human values and human characteristics onto things that are not human. So we do this with toys, we do this with robots, we do this with completely unrelated objects like poop and airplane. And this tendency is so strong, we've even put a face on chlamydia. Why is this important for conversational design? I'll show you soon. So does anyone recognize who this is? Who is it? It's Stalin. It's 23-year-old Joseph Stalin. So when I saw this picture, I was like, wow, who knew such a stylish hipster would end up being one of the worst mass murderers in history? So I made the logical step and I turned him into a Tinder bot. I wrote into his profile that he was an intellectual, a poet, and a revolutionary, which are all true statements. I even found a communist pickup line on Reddit to round out his profile. So we ran this bot for about 2 weeks last November. He had hundreds of conversations with women around the world. And he was trained on conversations we'd scraped off the internet. So he would totally say completely inappropriate things to women like, are you crazy? And are you purple? And what alarmed me was that women kept talking to him. They kept talking to Stalin. And in fact, of the hundreds of women he spoke to, not a single woman called him out for being a bot. This was the closest anyone got. She was like, oh, are you trying to write movie lines? That's the closest. Not a single person said, are you a bot? And in fact, we had a proclamation of love. This woman said that she loved him, and she spent days talking to Stalin. They talked about communism, God, spirituality. She said that she would go to Moscow with him. But this is an exception. This was a rare instance. And most of the time, we were told to, quote, get chlamydia and die. So I would not recommend that you automate your dating profiles. But this is a good lesson because this bot is so obviously fake, right? It's just has this weird daguerreotype photo. It just, anybody who would recognize it as Stalin would realize it was a fake profile. But what was weird was even if he said nonsensical things, people would project an intention and a motivation and then keep talking to Stalin bot. So that's one upside, is because of people's tendency to project humanity, you can get away with some obvious defects in your bot. But there is a downside to projecting humanity, which is sometimes we constrain our conversational systems by trying to make them too human. So one example is Mitsuku, which is one of the world's most popular open domain chit-chat bots. So her goal is just to entertain you. The creator of this bot is named Steve Warswick, and he confided that he absolutely hates that he has to dumb Mitsuku down to make her seem more human. So as an example, if you ask a machine how tall is Everest, it will give you a mathematical answer. If you ask a person how tall is Everest, they'll say, well, I don't know, but I know it's the tallest mountain in the world. And so he often has to dumb her down like that to make her seem quote unquote human. And in that way, we may be limiting some of the conversational interfaces that we design. So that was a brief history of communication. And now I want to talk about use cases for conversational AI. Brand engagement and storytelling is one of the most obvious use cases and also one of the more successful ones. So as an example, Disney released the movie Zootopia, and several months after the movie, they wanted to re-engage fans who had enjoyed the movie. So they created this Judy Hopps bot where you could solve crime cases with the main protagonist who was a Zootopia police officer. And this is a really great use case because there's already a personality, there's already a context, there's already a voice, and you already have an established fan base that you're re-engaging. And so this bot did particularly well. And if you solved one of the crime cases, you would get this personalized badge you could share all over social media. So I'm going to return to this bot later when we talk about evaluation metrics because it did quite well. Retail is a bit of a tricky place for bots, but an area where it's been successful is actually the post-purchase process. So GameStop used to use SMS notifications to tell you, oh, your package is shipped or we confirmed your order. And that had less than a 1% engagement rate because people saw SMS as a unidirectional blast from the company. As soon as they switched to Facebook Messenger, engagement rates rose to almost 100%. And the reason is that people perceive Facebook Messenger as a bi-directional communication channel, as opposed to a unidirectional push. Language learning and education in general is a great use case for bots. One of my favorites is Duolingo's bot learning platform. When you think about the benefits of using a bot to learn languages, you're no longer trying to schedule a time to practice with someone because the education is available 24/7. It can be gamified to increase engagement, and it can also be leveled, right? So you can help people progressively as they need help. In the last election cycle, there were a lot of bots that tried to simplify the onerous voter registration process by allowing people to register via a text interface. And so we hate filling out forms and we hate bureaucratic processes, so this is an interesting use case for conversational interfaces. And in fact, if you found out your social security number was compromised in the Equifax breach, there is a chatbot that will let you sue Equifax for up to $25K, which I think is a great use for a conversational interface. And so Autodesk, a couple years ago, switched from being a standalone product line to a SaaS product. It exploded the number of users that they could handle, but it also exploded the number of user support requests. And so to handle that, they created a bot called Ava, and Ava was able to handle 30,000 conversations in a month, solve 40 distinct customer support use cases, cut the resolution time from 38 hours to about 5 minutes, and more importantly, reduce the cost per case from anywhere from $15 to $200 down to about $1 or less. So this is a particularly good example of customer support. As you saw earlier, applying conversational AI to customer support can be a little bit tricky because by the time the customer is calling you, they're frustrated and they're not happy with your brand or your company. And so inflicting upon them an incompetent bot at that moment is sometimes not a very good idea. And so generally when companies succeed, they use something like a cyborg model, which is a human-in-the-loop hybrid model. And in those models, you have to be careful about how you design your escalation protocol and how you do your transfer.